Joining us now live in Richmond, good friend of mine, definite ongoing co-host with me when I'm in Richmond. He's the head honcho of the Delmarva Electric Group and very much dialed into Richmond politics and what's going on. Andrew Veihorn. Andrew, good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good. We were bantering a little bit on Friday in Glenn Davis's office, and is it just me, or does that seem like weeks ago? That was just like 3 days ago we were there.
Every day seems like a week down here.
Definitely, and because you got Super Bowl and all that fun stuff going on. I had 3 basketball games this weekend.
And you were right again. You picked the Eagles, and once again, your streak continues.
Well, I did pick the Eagles, no question about that. So, Andrew, what's going on today? We're a couple weeks here before crossover. What are some of the top things going on in Richmond?
Yeah, you're actually a week before crossover. I think it occurs next Tuesday, and that's
right.
For your listeners' edifice is when each house has to finish the bills that originated in that house, and then moving forward, the Senate can only take up Senate bill or House bills, and the House can only take up Senate bills. So this is a really busy week for committees and subcommittees because bills have to be read 3 times on the floor, so you really have to have 3 days worth of floor session to get a bill passed. So that means that committees have to finish up this Thursday with all of their work in order to give the legislation enough time to be voted on the floor. So you've got some important bills coming up in the House and Senate Commerce and Labor Committees this week. A lot of the energy bills are up. The Senate's having their energy night tonight. The House is having 2 days of energy bills on Tuesday and Thursday. And, one of the big underlying issues that folks are reading about but probably don't have a lot of details about is the overriding of the rate freeze bill or the Dominion legislation that would undo the 2015 Act that froze their base rates. And discussions have been in a kind of a black box mediation. The governor has retained Mark Rubin, who's a mediator with VCU, to try to hammer out agreements between the utilities and the environmental community and the renewable community and get something that everyone can live with moving forward. I think we expect that to be unveiled in the Senate Commerce and Labor this afternoon.
So this is really unprecedented, right? Where you have the governor getting a third party in to negotiate basically a compromise between Dominion Energy, which is a public utility, and I guess the other members of the General Assembly that want to see the bill changed. So that everybody knows what happened. I'm going to do it in 15 seconds. Frank Wagner cut a deal with Dominion Energy, freezing rates for a period of time. But in return for that, Dominion Energy wouldn't have any audits. And the reason this was done was because Obama launched his Clean Energy Act. No one knew how much it would cost Dominion Energy in Virginia to comply with that. And so there was concern about no one knew what their rates would be. And so Wagner cut this deal and said, no audits, freeze rates. Everybody has certainty in the market. And because we don't know what's going to happen, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Of course, now there is no clean energy bill. The costs are there. Dominion is making a bigger profit because than potentially allowed because of the deal. And then Chap Peterson has led the effort to scrap the deal. So where are we now with this whole thing?
I think what you'll see is Dominion will refund a portion of the money. That number has climbed from $130 million to the most recent document I saw was a $200 million customer refund. They will probably go to a commission review every 2 to 3 years. And then I think you'll see a huge expansion of investment in renewables. You'll see a lot of projects moving to underground transmission lines to foster system reliability. I think there'll be some investments in new technology like smart meters that will help them more efficiently manage the load. So they're really trying to spur investment as well as make sure ratepayers are made whole with some of the refunds.
So is that going to be an acceptable compromise to the Chap Peterson wing?
I don't know if anything would be an acceptable compromise to those folks. And that's an interesting point. The fact that the governor put together mediators or the fact that Dominion is showing up to mediation, I think is a direct result of the elections and the losses in the House of Delegates. I mean, this is kind of uncharted waters for a company that's used to getting what they want when they want in the General Assembly.
Okay, so it's going to be interesting to follow this, but you're right. I mean, had Republicans maintained the same type of majority they had, what you're saying is this whole compromise probably would not have happened.
No, I think you would have seen some kind of undoing of the rate freeze bill just because there is no clean power plan. There's no real reason for it. But the extent to which the compromise has taken place would have been very much different.
Okay, tell me about Medicaid expansion. We just heard from Siobhan Donovan earlier, and she has kind of a bill that would address mental illness and things like that, but not true Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. Who's carrying that bill, and where's it going?
Well, one of the things that I've heard is I don't know that this is anything that is actually in a bill yet. What you may see, just because you need the time to compromise, is this could be put into the budget. And if it's put into the budget, then it's law for 2 years, and it would force the parties to come back every 2 years and look at how are the costs playing out and actually renew or alter the program that they're able to put together. But this is another one of those things that is kind of being held in a black box. I think neither side wants to give too much. Ultimately, I think something will come out. I think the get for the Republicans will be some type of work requirement or drug testing for recipients. And with that, they will be able to expand Medicaid to an acceptable level.
Let me just ask you this about the work requirement. The Medicaid expansion is designed for people that are working, right? If they weren't working, they would qualify for Medicaid. So I don't get it, right? Just help me here with what I'm not getting. Medicaid expansion is for people that have jobs, make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but don't make enough money to buy the insurance. We estimate there's maybe 400,000 people in the Commonwealth in Virginia that fall in this what they call the gap. So they're already working. So why would there be a work requirement for people that are already working?
Not being a healthcare industry expert, I would defer to someone else on that. But I think there may be instances around the fringes where there are loopholes, or maybe the folks that are unable to work may still have some type of requirement put upon them if it's community service or volunteer hours or some way.
Got it.
That would try to deter the fraud, waste, and abuse that you hear so much about.
Got it. So if it goes in the budget, though, then if it's a 2020 tie in the Senate, if Emmett Hanger, one Republican that is in favor of it, votes for it, and it's 2020, because it's in the budget, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax can't weigh in, right? He can't break the tie.
But Republicans still write the budget. So I think if they were able to reach a compromise that went into the budget, it's unlikely that you would see it be a tie.
Because they're writing the budget. It's going to be fascinating, Andrew. We'll get you back on tomorrow for another update. You're dialed in. Thank you for being with us. Andrew Veihorn, the head communications honcho for the Delmarva Electric Co-op, dialed into everything that's going on there. Thank you so much.